A dental model is you should, especially if you have a small office that spent so much time building community, which we've done, take the good stuff from us and make us better. And Modus is the first place that actually I felt like was heard. So we were appreciative that Modus gave us a chance because, most people are going to look at all the numbers and look at all that kind of stuff. And we have a good practice, but unless it's going to make them a buttload of money, they didn't want anything to do with us.
Welcome to Community Conversations, a podcast for general practitioners and specialists at dental practices who are focused on growing the practice of implantology. In each episode, we cover trends and advancements in implantology, the challenges facing practitioners, and share experiences from Modus Dental Partners' multidisciplinary practices. Ultimately, you will gain insight into your growing practice. Let's get started.
Hey, welcome everybody. I am excited to be here with our newest partners, Dr. Clark and Vandehaar. They are the leaders and owners of Total Care Dental. It was founded in 2001. It is a 3-doctor practice in Madison, Wisconsin. So Modus is excited to have entered the great state of Wisconsin with our first partnership. Welcome, guys. All right, so I've been looking forward to having this conversation. I've noticed that a lot of our listeners have found value in just getting to know our partners better, and you guys have a great story to tell. But before we get too deep into it, I'm just going to ask a couple of random questions that I've picked up along the way. So first one's for Dr. Clark. Can you, what do farmers' walks in the practice have? What's the story behind that? I heard something
Jason,
about asking you.
I'm not getting any younger, so basically
carries.
I'm just trying to, he and I like listening to a lot of health stuff and longevity, I guess the big thing is. And so we've got weights in the office where I carry around, I try to carry around a couple minutes a day because statistically speaking, if you got a stronger grip, you actually live longer. It sounds crazy, but so. And actually, I like to rock climb with my kids. My kids all indoor rock climb, which is a total side note. And so it helps my arms stay a little stronger so I can keep up with my college kids. Because in your 50s, it's harder to keep up with them. So I got to be a lot smarter about trying to keep up with them, which is the challenge. So, but it makes it more fun to be able to go on ski trips and water ski, snow ski, all that kind of stuff. So, exactly. Peter T.
I love it. Going after the Centurion Decathlon, it sounds like. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not allowed to have favorites, but you mentioning that there are weights in the practice does certainly have some incentive to come visit more often. All right, second question for Dr. Vandehaar. Talk to me. I was told to ask a question about
my
99
grandfather
things
turned
to
100
do.
this year in August, and
What's that all about?
My grandfather and I share a birthday, and I'm his oldest grandson, his first grandson. And so in his 99th year, his siblings all decided to help him out and find 99 new things for him to do in his 99th year. So pretty much a day didn't go by where my kids and I were with him exploring new things, and he was experiencing new things as a 99-year-old, preparing him for his 100th birthday. And it was just kind of a really inspiring year for our family to just be together and do more things with him and have him seeing the world through my kid's eyes and seeing it simultaneously through his eyes was a really powerful year and just a fun thing to do with him. And it just tells me that I've got a good chance to live to 100 someday too. So I've got genetics on my side. So carrying weights around is a good thing. Rucking a lot is a good thing. And getting my VO2 max as high as it can be is going to be a good thing for longevity. So those are reasons why we like doing it.
I love that. It's surprisingly challenging to get the VO2 max up. So the Garmin watch tracks it, and I was on the edge of I forget,
Right.
It was like excellent and then like superior to get into the top 10%. And it
Yep, it's challenging. It's hard.
It took me the better part of 6 months to get that 1 point. Yeah. And the funniest thing is the day that I got it, Perry, our CFO, also, he's got a Garmin watch as well. So we joke about two things. One is how stressed we are, and compare scores, and the other one is the VO2 max. And the day that we got it, it was a weekend. I had just finished the long run, and I told him, I was like,
That's awesome.
the highlight of the year.
Yeah.
I finally got my 1 point. So, okay, going back to the 99 things, what can you give us a sampler of one or two things that really stood out to you? One or two of the 99.
Most interesting things to do was he got to go skydiving, like simulated skydiving in like a skydiving machine or whatever. He wasn't ready to jump out of an airplane.
Yeah.
And then he also got to fly in a B-25 bomber, and which he was a medical doctor. He drove ambulances and served in several different wars, but he was never in the air. And so for him to get to escort him onto a B-25 bomber and have fly around on that, it was a pretty cool experience for him. And for my kids, just see this 99-year-old guy climbing into this plane that normally 18-year-olds are jumping in and out of that thing. So to get him in there was a task, but it was a really cool experience. And then,
yeah,
he was
was he a medical?
Surgeon.
Was he in the medical corps?
And so he served in tail end in World War II, driving ambulances because he couldn't enlist because he couldn't pass the eye exam. So then, as soon as he did that, then he went to medical school in orthopedic school here in Wisconsin, and then was in the Army. And he retired after serving in Desert Storm 1 as a 1-star general and as a medical doctor. And so he's been in Madison now since like 84. He's been back here, and it's been great having him around. And I feel blessed to have him still in my life today. It's pretty cool.
Was he ever stationed at Walter Reed? I think I told you my dad was. His medical corps.
Yeah,
39
he's
years.
got quite a few stories, and he still will talk your ear off if you ask him.
Very cool.
As long as you give him a single malt scotch to go along with it, he will talk all day for you.
Can't argue with that one.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So, you kind of touched on it. It clearly sounds like your grandfather is a big part of your life. Maybe I'll stay with you, Dr. Vandehaar, and then we'll jump over to Dr. Clark. You mind sharing a little bit about your childhood and big inspirations,
so
things you love to do?
Born and raised in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. It's about 3 hours north of Madison. And my father is a dentist. He still practices up in Chippewa Falls. And growing up, we were a pretty active family. Lots of outdoor activities all the time. Big swimming family. So to this day, we're all still pretty big swimmers. Even my kids now are both on the swim team, and so it's been a fun generational thing that we've been able to do. And some of the joys of childhood was really those experiences of going on outdoor excursions, camping trips, and hikings and swim meets all the time. Coming down to Madison, where my grandfather's house was here, and coming to Madison for me growing up was visiting grandma and grandpa. So it was, as I grew up, that's one of the big loves that I had with Madison. And so when it came time to choose where I wanted to go to college, Madison was at the top of my list because it was like, well, I'm going to go to college because I'm going to grandpa's house. And so my grandparents just had a really big influence on me growing up because they were close and diehard Badger fans. And so I became a pretty big Badger fan right away. And every time we come down to Madison, and it was just really neat to see how my grandparents loved the Madison area, seeing their friends and seeing the community that they had built, and through my grandfather's orthopedic surgery practices and all of that. And so that was a really big influence on us, as me and my kids. And second, my father running a small dental practice in Chippewa Falls that he still is running today. Why, I don't know. I've been telling him to retire for years, but he still hasn't yet because he loves what he does. And that was one of the big things, is that he instilled upon community, being an integral part in your community, running a small business was a really big key for him, and being in the medical field, and those were some big pillars that really stood out in my life and helped me in my decision to kind of move towards dentistry. And I was also a lifeguard from the time I was 15, and being through some medical emergencies with that kind of helped steer me towards the drive to be in the medical field. And then when it came time to decide, did I want to go medicine versus dental, my dad had a big influence on just that idea of being a part of your community and not being in a hospital all the time. And I really like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I steered towards dentistry.
Given your genetics,
Right, exactly.
The reason why your dad hasn't retired yet is he's just past halfway point, sounds like. All right, Dr. Clark, same question to you. A little bit about your childhood. What kind of, who inspired you?
Well, I didn't
move
decide
into
on
the field
dentistry
of
until later.
dentistry? Take
Grew
it
up in the
away.
suburb of Chicago, Elgin, Illinois. Sister. I think the big thing that I, growing up, was both my grandparents were farmers. I used to go for a week and kind of hang out with them, and I learned hard work was kind of the thing. That just put the time in with that, and I think that made a big difference with that. And then from my parents, I learned my mom was a teacher, my dad sold insurance, but they always tried to connect with the person first, and then try to make a difference in their life. And I think that kind of steered me into my goals I have for my life. In the 80s, if you were good at math, you were told to go to engineering school. So I went to engineering school. As my mom told me, I was a sheep. I didn't actually think about what I wanted to do. I just was good at calculus. And so I went to Purdue for undergrad and was planning on being an engineer. And then when I was at Purdue, I had a friend whose parent was a dentist. And I used to go home for weekends and follow them around and talk a little bit. And I got to know them. And I thought, wow, I could still use the science, which I really love to do. But my passion is connecting with people. And I realized I could do that with dentistry. So I kind of jumped in both feet. I will say I probably gave my dad a heart attack. I came home like junior year at Purdue and said, I want to be a dentist. And all he said was Herbie from, the Christmas Carol. But he's like, you want to do what? You're almost done and you've got all this stuff. And I jumped in both feet and luckily I've landed and it's been an awesome experience ever since. So if you had told me in high school that I was going to be a dentist, I said, you're nuts, because I didn't know any doctors. I didn't know. It's interesting how you grow up. I mean, my parents taught me that I could be anything, but I don't think I believed that until I actually jumped into it. It wasn't something I ever considered. So I'm grateful that it's amazing how you meet certain people that you think maybe that doesn't make a difference, but you hear that one thing and it puts a seed in your mind that you think, wow. And then the next thing you know, there you are going down the road of dentistry. So it's been good. It's been a good journey. Total Care Dental. I mean, I think you also learn as you go along, and this is the third practice I've been at, that the science and that stuff is really good, but you have to work with people you trust, have the same morals, same integrity. And I think that leads to everything we're talking about. And Jason is awesome. I mean, he's the best partner I've ever had. We have the same morals, the same integrity, and I think that makes a really big difference. I mean, the office, basically has been around since 1972, to be honest. There was two doctors that came together in 1972, and those two doctors worked together. And then 2001 is about when they started separating and retiring. But so it's been a 2 to 3 doctor office forever, and it's been more personal touches, which is why Jason and I are here today. So in school, they teach you all the science. They teach you what's important, but I think what's important to be able to be a good dentist. But I think the key is you have to partner with people who have the same integrity and morality. If you don't have that, it's a disaster. And we all went through our learning moments for that, but here we are. So I'm excited to be here.
Your story's not the part about not really realizing you wanted to be in the profession of dentistry until later into undergraduate. Dr. Olson, really similar situation. I think he was an upperclassman in college. His dad is an accountant and a professor. His brother is an accountant, and so he was going to be an accountant. And he was just trudging along, going through university, and his cousin, who, go figure, is an accountant, had decided after practicing for a couple of years that he was going to move into the profession of dentistry. And I think he was inspired through his father-in-law. But he sat down with Dr. O and said, "Hey, you know, you're not suited to be an accountant. You you know, like your parent, your dad might, and your brother might, but what drives you and your personalities, I just don't think you're going to be happy as an accountant." And he said, you might want to take a look at dentistry. And what inspired Dr. Olson was really, it was about the people. He just really felt committed to building relationships, being able to impact people's lives in a positive way. He liked the fact that running your own practice was entrepreneurial, and you could be creative. So it's funny how people find their way into the profession, but it is a bit of a calling, and that comes through with everybody I talk to.
Yeah, actually, I mean, similar to that. I mean, I think, my senior year, we had a project in engineering where I was in electrical engineering. I had a buddy of mine, a really good friend of mine, and he was brilliant with code and all that kind of stuff. And our senior project was to write the code for Space Invaders, just totally old school. And we got done with it, and he looked at me and he goes, "Thank God you're going to be a dentist." And I said, "Yeah, thank God I'm going to be a dentist." I mean, because he basically wrote the whole code. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" I said, "I got to talk to people." I said, but it kind of goes what you're talking about, Dr. Olson. It's like, I wouldn't have probably been a good engineer. I could do it,
right,
but I didn't have any passion for it. And, passion, at least for Jason, at least I feel like, is connecting with people and be able to use the science.
Yeah.
That we use.
Well,
cool.
Every study group, you have roles. There's the brainiac. There's a person that does all the recording, and there's always one important person in the group, and this was usually the role I filled, was the guy that brought the pizza and the drinks for the team. So everybody's got a place in this world.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'll stay with Dr. Clark, and then we'll transition over to Dr. Vandehaar. You went to dental school, graduated, and first job out of dental school. What was it? How did you choose it, or how did it choose you? Talk to me a bit about the beginnings.
My first job out of dental school, I did a residency at the VA in Minneapolis. I looked at a couple of different residencies, but my soon-to-be lived in Minneapolis at the time, so I actually was going to do a residency at Ann Arbor, but she wasn't there, so I knew I was going to propose to her. So that played a factor into the decision making in the VA in Minneapolis,
Yep.
which is part of how life works. I had a good experience there for a year, and then we moved back to Madison, and that's where I jumped. I had an office. I was with an office in the Madison area for about a year and a half, and then another office for a year and a half, and then I bought into this office in 2001, which kind of goes to the number that we had. Obviously, I've been here.
Okay, you said moved back to Madison. Is that because Margaret's from Madison? Okay.
Margaret's from Madison. Yep, her family's here. We wanted to get closer. My folks actually retired to northern Wisconsin from Chicago, so it was a good kind of a middle ground to be able to get there because my folks live in a kind of a vacation area in the northern Wisconsin on the lakes, so a lot of water skiing, fishing, all that kind of stuff. So we were going to go up there all the time anyways. So yeah, we just wanted to get closer to family. We were about ready to have our first child, so which has been spectacular, right? Because I remember my family or my buddies were like, "Brett, you're moving close to your in-laws." And I said, "Yeah, I'm having kids. It's brilliant." And at the time they thought, because I was ahead of them, they didn't have kids. They thought I was nuts, right? I mean, loving got away, but it's ended up being the greatest thing ever. My kids are like so connected with them and stuff. It's it kind of goes what we were about in our office. It's just family is so important, and having them close has been amazing. But I mean, I think that goes to what we were talking about a little bit earlier on this. Is like that's what I learned at those first two offices, that you have to partner with people that have the same level of dentistry, right? Because if you do it at this level and someone else does it at a different level, you're going to be at that level with someone else. And you also have to work with people who have the same thing I said earlier, the same integrity and morality that I know. And it was kind of a shocking thing for those first couple offices. I mean, I think they all did a nice job, but it wasn't at the level that I kind of expected, which is why, here. And
so you were at two practices, year and a half apiece. What were your what were the kind of like key lessons learned that you took away before buying into Total Care?
Well, I mean, you have to have a high standard for dentistry. That you have to be, your fillings have to be this good, your crowns have to be good. You know,
Yeah.
it's all over the board. And like I said, the weakest link is truly the weakest link, is what I have found. So if you're partnered with 5 dentists and you've got 2 dentists that whose work doesn't live up to what your standards are, you're going to be based on those standards. You know, and unfortunately or fortunately, and you know, everyone that worked here lives up to those standards. So you have to work with people that are curious, that want to keep improving and keep pushing themselves to get better every year, no matter what company you're with. And that's a big key. And I think the second one is just you have to work with people that you trust, that, you know, when I'm gone with my family for a week, I know Jason's going to take care of it and it's going to be great. You know, I mean, I have to trust that and they're going to take care of it at a level and expectation that I want it to be. You know, and that leads into the whole Modus thing too, is that, you know, everyone we met with Modus is the same concept, right? They're living up to those expectations. I'm one that really lives my life by like a certain standards that I know in my heart is this is what it's got to be. And if it doesn't do that, I can't live with that. And it makes it really challenging sometimes to do that. And that's an emotional thing. And so it's hard sometimes to argue and put a number on that. But I can tell if something's wrong or right. And if it's not right, Jason says I'm a pain in the ass. I'm sorry. But I mean, that's just what it is. I can't live with it. So that's the big thing I learned from both those. And also, I think the other big thing is that you need to treat your team as equals. When I was at the other offices, I wasn't a partner, and they kind of talked down to me. They didn't treat me as an equal, and it really bothered me because it's like I think everyone has something to bring to the table. You don't know what experience you're going to get from someone else out there, and I think that might be the top one of the 3, even though it's the last thing I brought up. Is I just think you don't know where you're going to learn something new from someone. That could be from a patient, that could be from a staff member, a partner, whoever. You need to go into it assuming greatness and then kind of looking at it that way.
That's great. All right, Dr. Vandehaar, you graduated dental school. Talk to me about kind of first steps out.
Well, I went to dental school in Michigan. Actually, after I graduated from my undergrad in Madison, I lived in Madison for a year, and that's where I met my wife, Heather. And she's from the Madison area, and we were both applying to schools. She got into nursing school in Minnesota, and I got into dental school in Michigan. So we met each other. We're like, oh, it's great. Now we're gonna be apart. And we knew shortly after we got together that we were destined to be together. And so she went to Minnesota, I went to Michigan, and we started whenever we could. We would meet in Madison because it was a good halfway point. Better for each to drive 6 hours than one person to drive 12. And so after I was in dental school for a year, that's when I proposed to her. And then we lived apart for another 2 years. Finally got married, and then she finished her 3-year program and then moved to Ann Arbor. And we lived there until I graduated. And that really taught me a lot in patience and just kind of learning how to. I got to be engaged to someone, but I wasn't living with them, and that had its own challenges. And then when we got to live together, it was a whole new set of challenges that helped us grow as a couple and as individuals, and it's been fantastic ever since. But with that, because we had spent all that time meeting in Madison, and kind of like what Brett was saying earlier, is like we wanted to start a family, and Madison was a central location that was very close to her parents and fairly close to my parents. That they live in La Crosse in Chippewa Falls now. So Madison was kind of the place that we wanted to end up. And I was looking at residency programs, and because I wanted to come back to Madison, there was an opportunity at one of the hospitals here in Madison for me to do a residency for a year. So we came back to Madison, and very quickly during that residency, I started to learn a lot. I just started to get the repetitions to understand the type of dentistry that I wanted to do. And I got to meet probably 20, 25 different dentists in this area because they all kind of rotated through the residency. And so every day I got to meet someone new and start to see their type of dentistry that they were doing. And they would lecture to us and bring bring little nuggets to the table. And that's where I met Brett. And during that time period, everybody was coming in and teaching us things. And Brett came and taught a little differently. And he shared a story about a patient of his who'd been coming to see him for a while, and then he didn't see him for a little while. He came back and he had a whole bunch of dental work done. Brett didn't do it, and it was all a whole bunch of aesthetic stuff. And he vowed from that day, because for whatever reason, the guy didn't think that Brett was a cosmetic dentist, and he vowed from that day that he was going to do everything in his power to make sure that he could do the best dentistry possible. And throughout that journey, and he shared with us that journey, which at the forefront included connecting with patients. And on top of the continuing education that he did, and it just inspired me. And I was like, I got to work for this guy someday. And when I finished my residency, Brett and I had been talking, and he didn't have anything to offer for me at the time, which was being honest. And that was the key, is that he was being honest with me. Like, it'd be great for us to work together, but I don't have anything for you. And I said, that's fine. And I took a job on the east side of Madison. I worked there for about a year and a half, and just kept talking with Brett. And eventually it came to a point where he's like, I can give you a day or a day and a half. And I said, great, I'll take it. And I worked for a community clinic, health center clinic throughout the greater Madison area. So after I left my other position, I worked here for a day and a half, and then I filled the rest of my time filling in at other clinics. And it took about a year and a half before I was busy enough and the time was right. And then I became full-time here. And then I was here for several years, and then just about 10 years ago now, when I bought in and became a partner. And I'd say since day one of me starting, as Brett was saying, I was treated as an equal. I was treated as a partner, and that was the stipulation from day one. And that's been really inspiring. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm the dentist that I am today, because I came here and he treated me like everybody else, and then said, okay, now you got to do your dentistry even better. And this is how we're going to do it. And we started becoming CE junkies together, and we started developing our skills and constantly pushing the envelope. And that's what we continue to do today. And it's all rooted in community and connecting with
That's
patients.
awesome. All right, Dr. Clark, talk to me about the first time you met Dr. Vandehaar and how that relationship progressed from your perspective.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey, because there was this great residency, and actually it's been closed the last 5-6 years. It's actually been a pretty good, it's been a real true loss for the community, because this residency at this hospital in Madison had been there for probably 30, 40 years probably. Yeah, so I taught there one day a month for years, and Jason, it was actually, I did it because I just like to teach, but it got me to really realize, to connect with people. And from day one, I just knew Jason was the right guy, right? It was one of those things where you have a year together, right? And I tried to be really transparent with them. Like, I was really comfortable with them and saying, this is what I did well, this is what I didn't do well. But you could tell who was self-confident, who had compassion, who had love for their patients. Jason had that the whole time. And they had 3 residents every year, and I was there for, 10 years or something. But there wasn't many that I connected with everyone, but there wasn't many that I wanted to work with, right? I think we kind of both felt the same way. It was almost like a dating scene. And it was like, we were already both married, but I'm like, I'm having a dating scene with Jason. What's going on here, right? So when he was done, it was really hard, because I wanted him to start that day. And we had just hired a new dentist, like literally, just because the timing, so it was bad. And, he was really patient, and he was great. For him to come, a day or 2 a week to make it work was a testament of, I think, the connection that we had during that year, and even afterwards, because we still connected, and kind of the interest that we both have. I think we're both, I think CE junkie is probably the best word for it, right? We both, if we find a better way to do it, we just can't help not to do it. Money doesn't stand in the way. Nothing stands in the way of finding a better way to do it for patients. And it was nice to have that, because I just think, there's a lot of CE out there. Wisconsin, you have your 30 hours every 2 years, and you can go to all the local stuff and get a few nuggets and be a decent dentist. But it's a whole different level to be going to different centers for 2 or 3 days and immersing yourself into it. And I think it takes a special kind of person to do that. And I think we're lucky to have found each other for that reason. So it's one of those things where I went there to teach just to. I think I got more out of it than you teach, right? You give and it's amazing how often you get it back. I think it's that truism that we always use, and that's kind of how I look at it. It's just, it was meant to be, and so just blessed for that.
It's fun talking to partners because I always get to hear basically it's like dating, right? And how they found each other. The Troy family dental partners, Dr. Spencer, Dr. Boatman, have a hilarious story. So Dr. Spencer came, interviewed at the practice. They hit it off. But I think maybe through the negotiations, it seemed like maybe it wasn't the right time. And later that evening, Dr. Boatman's at I think it was an NHL game. They had center rink seats. He and his wife are together, and a stadium of thousands of people, and Dr. Spencer and his wife come and sit down right next to them. And yeah, right. What are the odds?
What are the odds?
And that's Dr. Boatman said. He goes, well,
wow.
He's a religious man too. He said, well, I think that was God sending me a sign that I should probably take a deeper look. And they ended up, I think, on the spot deciding that they were going to partner together. And Dr. Spencer joined the practice, and kind of the rest is history. So, these things, they happen in sometimes serendipitous type of ways. So, okay, you guys are you're in a partnership together, growing the practice. By all accounts, very successful. Really interested to hear about what was it like or thinking about future transitions, and then how did Modus end up coming into the picture? Share with me a little bit about the beginnings of that story.
I mean, we all have our hats in the practice, and Brett's my in the cloud guy who's always thinking 20 steps ahead. It's my job to get him out of the clouds and take those ideas and say, I think this is a good idea. Let's roll with it. I don't think that far ahead. I like discerning it, and then I'm the numbers guy, so trying to take care of all the numbers in the business. And as we grew and we continued to grow, that the growth became the issue. Was Brett built this beautiful building in 2001, and I remember him saying multiple times, I was like, this is all I'm going to need for the rest of my career. And then very quickly after I was there, how we were bursting at the seams, going like, this is becoming not big enough, which is crazy to think. I mean, we have 10 ops right now, and we had kind of just over half the building. Since then, we've taken over like 3/4 of the building. We've got room for expansion, and when it came to that and managing the team that we have, we've got an amazing team. We don't want to see anybody go. And when we were looking at how do we continue this growth, it started to become more and more out of our hands that we could do easily without me and Brett both missing out on our kids' day-to-day life. And so we were giving everything for our team. We were trying to make everybody's work-life balance better, and it was at our own expense. And our work-life balance was bad, and because we couldn't handle it. That's a nice way of saying it, right?
Do the PG version of this.
And so we were coming to that crossroads of like, if we continue this growth, we're going to need help to do it, because we stood by our work-life balance for our whole team, and we're the hypocrites over here who are putting in 80+ hour weeks to try to run the business and see patients on top of that. And that's kind of where our discussions started about, maybe we need to look at a partnership to help us with this. I know, Brent, you can have the R-rated version in there now.
No, I'm not. I'm going to be the R-rated guy. That's great. No, but I think that kind of sums it up, But the thing was, is like we had lots of discussions. I mean, I think we're really good at being candid with each other. But we were struggling with insurance and with Delta, and because based on that, you could argue that we should get smaller, right? So we were like, we kept going to different consultants, we had different accountants, and we kept getting different advice to go this way and this way, and they were all kind of cookie cutter answers, right? I don't think they ever looked at like what we were about, So we were like, one day we're like, wow, we should go smaller, but like Jason said, we've worked. I've been here for 23 years, and it took a long time to find these great people we work with. But if we were going to go smaller, and which would mean not be in a network with Delta, we have to go into it knowing that, wow, we could lose half our staff, right? Which seemed counterproductive. But then we also talked about, if we keep growing, we need help to actually manage this thing, because I think we do a reasonable job, but that's not supposed to be our job. Our job is connecting with patients, and we both are invigorated by CE and all the new stuff that's out there, right? So that's where it got tricky, and we both are like, either we're going to have to be full-time managers of this and dive into that, which I think he and I could have done really well, but then we were hiring more dentists and going bigger, throwing more stuff at it, and we weren't getting any good answers. So we started looking around a little bit for partners, with DSOs, and every DSO that we looked at was pretty cookie cutter, to be honest with you. It didn't fit into this goes back to morals, integrity, decency. It's like, it was all business model and we appreciate that you have to have a business model, because if you're trying to make a business model, you got to make money, you got to pay your team. We acknowledge that, but there's got to be a limit to how much you make, and how much there's a fine line between that. So we had kind of given up. I mean, we had looked at a bunch of places, and we're like, gosh, we're just going to have to suck it up. And that's when we, obviously connected with Modus. And it was just interesting because Modus had the same morals, the same integrity. I mean, everyone that worked with from day one till now has come across genuine, caring, best interest of the team, and not trying to change everything, embracing, there are things that we do really, really well. You don't change something that they do really, really well. There are things that we don't do really, really well, and Modus is going to help us change that. Whereas all the other companies we talked about were going to change everything because they have a model, in Madison, in Wisconsin, Culver's is the place to go for cheese curds and all this stuff, right? They have a great model. You can buy it, and you come in and you take their model and you run with it, and it works because everyone knows that's what they're going to do. That's not a dental model. A dental model is, you should, especially if you have a small office that spent so much time building community, which we've done, take the good stuff from us and make us better. And Modus is the first place that actually I felt like was heard. So we were appreciative that Modus gave us a chance, because most people are going to look at all the numbers and look at all that kind of stuff. And we have a good practice, but unless it's going to make them a buttload of money, they didn't want anything to do with us. But Modus saw what we were about, which is the most important thing for both of us. I'm speaking for Jason. He can say one way or the other. And I think that's, to me, what has defined us with this partnership. It's been shockingly good. So in my mind, Modus is not a DSO. I mean, I wouldn't market yourself as that.
Yeah.
They're a partner. They're a partner that wants to grow. And it's totally 100% difference than what I think everything else on the market is. And maybe there's another company like that, but I haven't seen it. And obviously, I don't really care because we're excited to be here. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll say from our side, I'll echo the same. As at Modus, we have a no jerk partnering rule, and that is, as we grow, it doesn't take many to really bring down the group if we partner with the wrong practices. So we spend a lot of time not just looking at the financials, the operations, but a huge amount of time spent with the partners, really to see whether there's alignment. And a big part of that is like culturally, are we going to work well together? Because when it works well, I mean, you kind of said it, I've seen it. We have the opportunity to bring our gifts to the table. Modus, as a corporate team, I've got with the exception of myself, I have a team of extremely smart people that can, I think when we bring our gifts to the table, what we bring is a lot of kind of analytical ability, with a great appreciation for the fact that every practice has a unique thing going for it. And so, growth, you can get growth a lot of different ways. The question is, are you architecting or co-architecting a future of sustainable growth? And that's not easy to do, because sustainable growth really takes into consideration the history and the strengths of the practice that you're partnered with, and builds on that. And as you said, Dr. Clark, if we just came in and hammered down a cookie cutter solution, I mean, the truth is you'd get short-term growth. And in 2 years, you'd have a bunch of staff turnover. Eventually, the doctors are going to be upset because they're not practicing the type of medicine that they were committed to. And it's very clear from your history that the choices you all made were professionally were in large part due to the type of medicine you wanted to practice and how you wanted to care for your patients. So we came in, made a lot of quick changes. We get you get growth in the short term. In the long term, you have a dumpster fire on your hands. And what we appreciate, and what I appreciate in particular, is, man, from the beginning, our conversations have always been about the future of the practice, how to grow, how to do things the right way. And to your credit, to both of y'all's credit, and honestly, is what you came to the table with was a deep appreciation for what you're good at, and also an appreciation for areas that you don't feel like you're strong. And that allowed us to bring our strength and kind of tie it together with you. And it's been an exciting ride. I tell my team all the time, I say, man, this is the way we want all partnerships to be. It's not that we do nothing. Actually, we have, and you have, an expectation of Modus to be able to also deliver on promises that we can help partner with you, that we can bring insights, and that we're going to work together to grow the practice the right way, to deliver excellence to patients, to make sure that your team is well cared for into the future. And it's been really exciting. I mean, I love talking to you and the team, because our minds are running in the same direction. And how we get there is a combination of everybody's talents, and it's been great. So early days yet, but you kind of touched on it, Dr. Clark. I'll put the question to Dr. Vandehaar as well. How has the experience been with Modus so far? What stood out to you?
It's been genuine. I mean, Brett said a lot of it, and one of the other things that really started the ball rolling too is just your affiliation with Dr. Picos and his teaching center. We've taken a lot of classes from him, and that really kind of helped kind of start the conversations there, because it came from an area of trust, and the work that he's done is incredible work, and a lot of it that we carry in the dentistry we do today. And that was a really good breath of fresh air when we started talking to you, was that continuing education is important. You need to do it, and it's something that we believe in, and you don't want to get in the way of that. So you're working to make sure that we continue to push the envelope and learn and develop our skills and develop our team's skills, so we can keep doing dentistry better and treating people like they want to be treated. And that was what really stood out with us. And every conversation we've had has been just like talking to equals. And really enjoyed that.
Appreciate that. Again, it goes back to, are we trying to co-architect a team that's focused on sustainable growth, or are we trying to just put some points on the board in the short term? And, we have a fundamental view that sustainable growth means keeping up with the pace of innovation and being able to continue to care for our patients at the cutting edge of innovation. Not innovation for the sake of innovation, but really innovation for the sake of the highest level of care for our patients and team. And, Dr. Picos, he's a shining example of that. And it's a man that's committed his life's work to the practice of medicine, but also teaching the newest and most impactful techniques in implant dentistry. Last question for you two, and I'll start with Dr. Clark. Most of our listeners are people that are considering a partnership with Modus, and so I'd ask each of you, open mic, but what would you share with somebody that's considering a partnership?
I would consider it. I mean, and to be honest with you, if you had told me a year ago that I was considering partnering with I don't want to use the word DSO, so we need to find a new name for this, because I think DSO has a negative connotation, and we have not had any negative connotations with any of our interactions with you. So I think it's invigorated me. I'm in my mid 50s. I love the CE stuff, but I mean, just in the 3 months we've been here, the reports that we've gotten back, like Jason and I will bring up some idea, and then like the next week we have weekly meetings, and the next week we get this information, which is what I've been looking for dentist for 27 years. Like for 27 years, our accountants would give us these numbers, and they're like, well, this is this, but then they couldn't explain it to us in like simpleton terms, and they'd all this high stuff. Whereas, like we're gonna have this. I'm really excited. I can't believe I'm saying this. We have a 3-hour budget meeting today, and I am excited. I mean, Jason's looking at me like I'm crazy right now, right? Because I'm the head of the sky. I want to know where we're going to go. I'm doing this, this, and this. I can't wait for this budget meeting, because the information is directly related to my pie in the sky stuff, right? It's totally related to what we're doing. So, like, for me, it's exciting to see that stuff, because it's like, well, we looked this up. Your idea is this, but we ran the numbers, and the reports are easy to read. They're very clear, and they're concise. And then they're giving us the power to make a decision. And it's totally the same thing I want to do with my patients. I have someone come in as a new patient. My goal is to give them every opportunity to hear every decision and let them decide. And that's exactly what you're doing for us. So it's just like a perfect marriage. So I don't know. I just don't consider it. I consider it as a partnership. I mean, I don't whatever word it is. It's like, and when you're partners, we're all vested to the same goal. And you guys are on the same thing. We all want to grow. We all want to do better for our teams, but we're not sacrificing what we're doing for patients to do that. And it's a big difference, because I think that's where, not to pick on corporate dentistry, but I think that's where sometimes we get so caught up in the numbers that you lose sight that we're working with people, and we need to take care of the people. And that's how you're treating us, and that's how we're treating our patients. And that's the same feel, and obviously we started our discussions in February, so it's been 9 months or whatever it's been. I've never had a doubt on those 9 months where that hasn't been your intent, whereas the BS meter has never gone up, whereas everyone else we talked to, the BS meter came up. And I think that's a testament. When you're with someone, like you hire someone new at your office, within 3 months, if they're good or not, right? Because you can tell that. Well, we've been dancing for 9 months, and nothing's come up that's been a red flag, which is pretty extraordinary, because I just don't see many big businesses that do that. So,
I mean, I could simply just say ditto, but I know that's not the answer you want. But I'll just add to it is that I look at a partnership this is not a retirement strategy. This is a partnership for continued growth, so that personally, so I can keep doing the dentistry that I love to do. And even in this short period of time, I've been sleeping better. I feel like I'm more present with my children. and that's a testament to our partnership with Modus. And it makes me happy and excited for the future of how long I can keep doing the dentistry, because I've still got probably a good 70 or 80 years on this planet at the rate that my genetics is going. So I got to be able to do this for a while, and but I want to be able to do it in a manner where I have a good work-life balance, and that's how I value this partnership, and that's what I'm excited for the future.
I think that's the key to what your partnership is that you want us to join, but part of the deal is we're joining you and you want us to sign for long term, which just means, because like if you're buying a business and you don't have Jason and I, the business is no good in a year or two. I mean, that's the whole point of this, is that, so that's a totally different mindset, right? It's like we're growing together to get to this point together. Because if you're just buying our patients, that's not doing you any good, because you're losing all our culture if one of us is not here. So we're both committed to each other. There's a trust and a risk with this, right? We committed to you for many years because we want to be your partner for many years. And that's what I mean. Obviously, I'm closer to retirement than he is, but I don't want to retire. I love dentistry. And Modus is, in my mind, going to allow me to practice. I don't know. I mean, I'm 54, but 15 more years, right? If I could work 3 days a week and work 15 more years, that's, to me, it's better for Modus. It's better for Jason. It's better for all of us to do that. And it gives us the opportunity to do that. So I just think, what Jason said was probably spot on. We're not looking for retirement. We're looking for just growth. And
well, gents, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate your time, and looking forward to the years ahead.
Thanks for listening to Community Conversations. This podcast is powered by Modus Dental Partners, an organization dedicated to supporting dental professionals with cutting-edge technology and continuing education opportunities through the PICOS Institute. If you enjoyed what you heard, follow Community Conversations wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. See you next time.